everybody. Welcome. My name is Kelly. I'm one of your customer champions here at InventoryLab and also part of our customer coaching team. And today we're going to be talking about ways you can optimize your settings here in InventoryLab. So I'm going to share with you just a few little hidden secrets and tips and tricks that maybe not all of our users are fully aware of when it comes to the settings inside your InventoryLab account. I have a wonderful moderator joining me today. So if you have any questions throughout our time together, if you would just post them in the chat or in the Q&A tab of your event page, we'll be sure to get those questions handled and addressed. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So I am logged into our test account here with InventoryLab. So if as we're moving through the application, anything looks a little weird, it's because this is our test account. So some of this data is just for testing purposes. So don't be alarmed if you see anything that looks a little strange or maybe doesn't look the same as it does in your account. But we're going to hop on over to our settings. And to get there, you're actually going to click your name in the top right corner. And then you can access your settings by clicking My Account or Settings. It's up to you, whichever way you'd like to go. I'm going to start in the My Account tab here just to share with you what you can expect to find here. So this is just information about your subscription. The most important thing I want to make sure we point out on this screen here today is actually down here towards the bottom half where it says Amazon Account Binding. And you'll see this little blue rebind button. Occasionally, something will happen where the connection between InventoryLab and Seller Central gets interrupted, or maybe we just need a refresh of your data. So if you're ever missing information or you feel like something isn't being displayed properly in your account, and you write a ticket into us here at support, our first course of action is probably going to be to ask you to rebind. So knowing this ahead of time can actually help save you a step. So what you'll want to do if anything ever looks a little strange in your account is just come down here, click this blue rebind button, and you'll be prompted to complete some steps to reauthorize the connection between InventoryLab and Seller Central. That way, once you've done that, if things are still looking strange, you can open a support ticket with us and we'll know that you've already taken that step. So that will be really helpful. You can also change your login email information down here at the bottom under contact info if you'd like. All right, let's get into the meat of our presentation here today. Let's go down to the General tab. At the very top, I think this is something that not a lot of our users know exists. You actually have the ability to change the default that pops up when you log into what we call Stratify. So think of InventoryLab as a big umbrella. And under that umbrella, we have Stratify, which is the desktop home of our application that you're looking at here. And we have Scoutify, which is our mobile sourcing app that you can access with your smartphone device. So Stratify, that's what we're looking at right now. You can actually change the default of where you're brought to every time you log into Stratify by selecting from this drop-down menu here. So at the top, it says, when I log in, take me to, and you can make their selection. We see a lot of users who default to logging into list because they spend a lot of their time in our application listing items, but perhaps you want to make sure you go straight to reports or right here to the settings tab. You can make those changes right here at any time. We also have some notification options here, and you can toggle any of these on or off just by clicking the little white circle at any time. The one that I really want to make sure I point out is actually this third one here of box content sent. So when you have this toggled on, we're going to give you a little green pop-up message when your box content information has been successfully sent to Amazon for processing. This is super helpful, especially right now with some of the changes that Amazon's been rolling out with their new send to Amazon workflow. If you have this off, you might not know for sure whether or not your box content information actually made its way over to Amazon successfully from us. So if you do submit your box contents through InventoryLab, I highly recommend that you have this setting turned on. All right, just shifting a little bit down on the page here, you can access all of your suppliers by clicking this blue drop-down arrow. This is going to open up a complete list of all the suppliers that you've ever entered when listing in InventoryLab. You can make edits here to them by typing in the field directly. You can also delete an entire supplier by clicking the trash can icon there, and add a supplier by clicking the blue Add Supplier button at the top. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this menu so it's not totally overwhelming. MSKU customization is another thing that a lot of our users don't know that we offer. So you actually have 3 different ways to set your MSKU preferences when you're listing through InventoryLab when we're creating MSKUs, which is really cool. So the first option is to let InventoryLab create your MSKU. If you select this, we're going to auto-generate a random number, and that will just be your MSKU, which is totally fine. You can use a set MSKU prefix. So for example, I just typed my name in here as the prefix. That will show up, and then a string of random numbers at the end. Or most of our users like to use a variable MSKU. And this is neat because it's totally customizable. So I'm just going to show you really quickly how to do that. If you click the little pencil icon here, you can drag and drop and switch up the order of these variables. And then from the drop-down menu, select the different variables in the order that you'd like them to see. So maybe in my custom MSKU, I want to see my purchase date first, and then a condition, and then a buy cost. However you want to change those around is totally up to you. You can also select your different separators. Maybe you want to use just a simple period, or an underscore, or a bracket. It's entirely up to you. And you'll see a preview down here at the bottom of what your new MSKU will look like. Just so you know, this count down here at the very bottom will always have to be added into your MSKU somewhere, and that's just a fail-safe so that you don't create multiple MSKUs for the same ASIN. Once you've got it set exactly how you want it, go ahead and click Save Formula. And this will apply to all MSKUs going forward. It won't update your MSKUs retroactively, but everything you list using this MSKU formula moving forward will have this same variable set up here. Down here under Inventory Management, you can toggle this button to On to default to today's date for your purchase date. So if tracking purchase date isn't something that's really important to you in your workflow, or you just know that you list items the day you purchase them, toggling this on can just save you a little bit of time. All right, let's go ahead and shift on down to printing. If you have a supported thermal label printer that we use and integrate with an InventoryLab, currently we offer integrations with Rollo, Dymo, Brother, and Zebra. You can set up your printer here and use our internal printing application, which is called IL Print. That's just going to help streamline your printing of labels and make everything a little bit easier for you. So you can remove your printer, print a test label, and add a printer here directly. If you are using 30 up labels right now with just a regular inkjet laser printer, you can still do that. You'll just want to print those labels through Seller Central. We do have an article with all the steps on how to do that if you just go visit our help desk or search for that online. What I do want to point out on this printer page is we have these really handy options where you can actually manage different types of label printing. So again, clicking these little circles will toggle these on or off. So you can actually choose to have a label automatically print for an item after it's added to a batch. Anytime you change the quantity, so say I listed a quantity of 4 for an item and I added 1 more and I have this setting toggled on, then an additional label will print out. During scan to pack, if you use that feature, you can toggle this on as well. Out of all of them, the one that I recommend everyone have toggled to on, even if you don't sell items that are grocery or that include an expiration date, is this include expiration date option here. This just means if you provide an expiration date when you're listing, it will definitely appear on the label for that item if you print through InventoryLab. The reason why I recommend that everyone turns this on is because Amazon does not like it when you send in an item that expires and doesn't have the expiration date printed on the label. So this is just a fail-safe to protect you. So make sure you have that toggled on if you don't already. All right, let's shift on down to the Employees tab. You can now create unlimited number of employees to have access to your InventoryLab account, which is really cool. Just keep in mind when you're adding an employee, your employee does need to have a unique email address. So if you're working with a prep center or an accounting company that also works with other InventoryLab users, you may need to ask them to create a brand new email address for you, or you can create one for them. But we do run into that sometimes at support where we'll see someone's trying to add an employee to their account who's already working with another InventoryLab user under that same email, and it gets a little confusing. So if you want to add an employee, just click that blue Add Employee button at the top, enter in their information, and then here you can decide what kind of access you want them to have to your account. You can toggle this on for full access or make your selection. So perhaps I have someone who's working with me and they are just in charge of listing. I can turn everything off except for perhaps list, research, and Scoutify because I want them to see what my ideal buys are. You can make all those changes and then go ahead and add employee. This will send them an email verification that they'll have to go through just to make sure that they have verified the security on their account, and then they'll show up as your employee here. They'll also have their own login, which is really neat, and you can edit their access or delete the employee anytime by using these icons to the right here. All right, let's move down to calculations. So this top one here talks about scouting profit calculator defaults. If you caught Andrea's session yesterday about using Scout and Scoutify, then this might make a little bit more sense. If not, make sure you go back and watch the replay. It was so great. But you can actually select your defaults here in this on this tab so that your profit calculator is just a little bit more accurate. So let's say, for example, that you know your sales tax rate in your area is always going to be 7%. You can make that change here. Perhaps you're like me and you're a former educator, which is really nice sometimes because they give you a 10% discount. You can add that in if you're always getting that discount when you're sourcing. And maybe your storage time is 6 months. You can make all those changes and then click Save. And this will then default, so all those calculations when you are using Scout and Scoutify will be a little bit more accurate to your particular situation. You can also change your FBA inbound shipping rate by adjusting the number here. And again, clicking that Save Change. That's just going to help, again, that setting in Scoutify and Scout be more accurate. All right, moving down to research. At the very top here, you can toggle the ideal buy on or off. If you are going to be using Scout and Scoutify for sourcing, we do recommend that you turn this on because we have a way to give you a little green thumbs up when you are finding something that is an ideal buy under the parameters that you've set. And so you can make those selections here. You can check for Amazon is or is not the merchant and whether or not this item is at great rank, to be defined here. We'll go over that in just a minute. You can also set a maximum number of offers that you'd like to see when you're sourcing and a desired ROI. So maybe I only want to be seeing ideal buys for things that are 60% ROI. We'll just make that change. Down here is all the different rank thresholds, and we know that everybody has a different definition of what a great rank might be, so you can make any of those changes for the different categories that you source items in. If you ever want to reset this page to default, just send us an email at support@inventorylab.com, and we can give you a full rundown of what those numbers were initially when you first signed up. Currently, we don't have a button internally to just reset it automatically, but we can provide that information for you if you need it. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the list tab here. So at the very top, you'll see we have our ship from addresses. Just like our suppliers tab, you can click this little blue arrow to expand or collapse this menu. And from here, you can edit, delete, or make any of the different addresses primary. You can also add a new address by clicking the blue Add Address button. Of course, you can do this while you're listing as well, but sometimes it's nice to just see all of your information all in one place, so we like to point that out. If you do sell merchant fulfilled, we have MFN shipping templates, which is a new feature for us. You can access all the information you need to know about here and then add or edit your shipping templates as well within the list tab. Condition notes. If you sell items that are not in a new condition, you can create some condition notes and some pre-filled defaults so that when you're listing items in various conditions, this just pulls up automatically for you to save you some time. So let me share with you a quick example. Let's say I'm selling books in a used good condition, and I want to have this pre-filled default note toggle to on. Every time I list a book and it's in this condition, this message will pop up on my listing, torn bindings, missing the cover. You can also add some common notes down here and delete them as well. Maybe you have pen markings that you want to select from. Maybe you want to mention that the cover is missing, whatever that might be. And you can select all of that here for different conditions. Unfortunately, Amazon doesn't allow condition notes for items in a new condition just yet, so this will only be applicable to items that are not new. The total cost calculator is probably one of my favorite features in InventoryLab, and it's something that I don't see a whole lot of users utilizing, so I like to make sure I point it out. When you have this total cost calculator on, it's going to allow you to factor in sales and discounts and other things while you're listing. I'm just going to give you a quick little peek at what that looks like now that I've toggled it on in our account. I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to my list and prep page. And from here, we'll list an item now that our total cost calculator is on. Got these pens, the best pens ever in the world. And you'll see that my average cost per unit box down here is grayed out, and there's a little calculator icon. This means that I have my total cost calculator on. So when I click this icon, a little modal will pop up, prompting me to enter in some information. So let's say I paid $8 for these pens, but I got my teacher discount at 15%, and my sales tax was 6%. And I'm also utilizing a prep center, so I know that I have a $1 prep center fee in there. I can enter all that information, click OK, and this will now regenerate a cost per unit for me with all of those additional details. So it's pretty handy if you often find yourself using discounts, or if you're using a prep center, things like that. All right, we're just going to head back to our list tab here. So that was a total cost calculator. We also have ways for you to set your auto pricing down here. And remember last entry is something that I really love to point out on this page. So if you're often listing things and you find yourself using the same cost per unit or the same condition over and over and over again, selecting these checkbox items from remember last entry can just speed up the listing process for you. So let's say I'm always selling books and they're always in a used condition. I want to make sure I have condition checked. That way it's one less thing I have to worry about delineating when I'm doing all of my listing. All right. We'll go on down to storage limits here. So this is also a relatively new feature for us here at InventoryLab. You can actually enter your Seller Central storage volume and restock limits directly here in InventoryLab, so that we can show you a little bar at the bottom of your list and prep page so you don't go over those limitations. You'll need to pull this information from Seller Central, so just go ahead and look at it over there and then transfer it all over here. If you don't want to be notified, you don't want that totals bar, or you don't want us to warn you when you go over a limit, just simply turn these little toggles off and we won't bother you about that. All right, let's move on down to the accounting tab. Here we have a couple of different categories. We have one for income and one for expenses. You can also manage and view these under your accounting tab, under accounting, other income, and other expenses. I know Yoshi shared all of this information for you in his presentation yesterday, so make sure you check that out if you didn't get a chance to see it. If you want to look at your income and your expense categories and at a glance, the settings page is the best way to do that. So you can go right here and collapse this or expand this menu using the blue arrow. You can add a category by clicking the add category button and typing there. And you'll see that that will pop up. You can also delete an item by clicking the trash can icon, and it will delete it from your other income. Same thing with other expenses. You can expand or collapse that menu. And then down here we have our disposition management defaults. So we like to point this out in case you aren't aware of how things typically navigate when you're using your disposition management. So for your FBA removals, for example, if you know that your items are always going to be sellable, because when an item gets removed, you're going to turn around and sell it maybe at a garage sale on Facebook Marketplace or on your Etsy shop, you can select it here so it will always default to sellable. If you want to go with whatever Amazon defaults to, you can select that as well. Same thing with MFN returns. When you do get a merchant fulfilled return, maybe you always sell this item again on Facebook Marketplace or at your garage sale, or perhaps you want to mark this as unsellable. You can change those defaults here. And then in your accounting disposition management page, that's how everything will pop up when they come through for removals and returns. All right. Finally, we've got some integrations. Hopefully you've already been able to chat with or meet some of our partners at Be Cool, Informed, Aura, and Seller Snap. These are the 4 repricers that we currently integrate with here at InventoryLab. So if you want to work with a repricer, we highly recommend that you select from these 4, because we have a really easy way to be able to transfer your information over from InventoryLab to these other companies. When you have decided which company you'd like to work with, you can just toggle one of these options to on, and it will prompt you through the setup process to tie your integration between your account, for example, over at Be Cool, and your account here at InventoryLab. If something ever looks a little funky when you're using one of our repricer partners, you can always come here and toggle the connection to off and then back on again to help go ahead and connect that and refresh that connection. We also do offer a feature with Zapier. If you're familiar how to use Zapier, you can connect InventoryLab to several other different applications. Just toggle this on and you'll be led through a process of how to connect that as well. And finally, you might not have the Insights tab in your account, and that's all right. Insights is also a new feature for us. It's an add-on feature we have in addition to your InventoryLab subscription. So it's an additional $25 a month, and it gets you access to currently the restock report and anything else that we might have coming down the pipeline for Insights. Stay tuned. And you can manage all of your information for the restock report here in this Insights tab. All right. Ooh, I feel like that was so fast, but I wanted to make sure we added some time for Q&A. So it looks like we have a question. When you change these toggles, is it changing for all your employee accounts? So that's a very good question. I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, or I have a moderator with me who can correct me. But I think it depends on the particular toggle. So for example, with the totals bar, this one here, if I toggle it on, it turns it on in all of my accounts. If I toggle it off, it turns it off in all of my accounts. We are working on a way for you to be able to just turn it off for employees, but that is coming up soon. Hopefully it's a feature suggestion that our developers are reviewing. But for other things like your total cost calculator, I do believe that is account specific. So your employees will have to choose to toggle those on or off as well. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong though, moderator friends. Awesome. We have a bit more time, so feel free to ask any questions here in the comments or the chat section, the Q&A, and I'd be happy to address those for you. While you're thinking, if you have any additional questions, I can go back and share with you a couple things that I skipped over because I was worried we would go over on time. I'm going to head back to the General tab here, and at the very bottom, you'll see Custom Research Shortcuts. What you can do is actually add 2 custom shortcuts to whatever your favorite research websites are, and you can add the URLs here directly, change the display name, and have a little icon text. So for example, maybe I'll put this icon text as K, save it, and I'll show you what that looks like on your Listen Prep page here. So you can see I added these pens. Here's my offers box. And underneath, I have this little K symbol here. When I click that, that's going to take me to that URL, which in this case is to BookScouter. All right. Looks like we have another question. Let's see. I do shipping from vendors to Amazon. If I change the shipping per pound, will that change my local prep center's price per pound? Michelle, that's an excellent question. And I actually don't know the answer to that. You've stumped me. If you would, open a ticket with us at support@inventorylab.com, and I'll take a peek and I'll make sure I answer that before I leave at the end of today. Thank you for asking. Awesome. So yes, back to those research shortcuts, you can actually set 2 different ones, and you can also have the icon text be your favorite emoji if you'd like it to be that instead of just a letter. This Show Me How link will also take you directly to our support article that will walk you through how to do that if you have any further questions there. Awesome. No problem, Michelle. Thank you. Every day is new here in customer support. We're always learning something, and we're always getting stumped by things and having to figure it out. So we appreciate the challenge. And I'm sure you're not the only one to have that question. So we appreciate you bringing that up. All right. We have any other questions, concerns about your settings? Cheryl, if we don't sell in the other platforms, can we delete these shortcuts? I think you're meaning these custom research shortcuts. And yes, you can delete them by clicking the delete and then clicking yes. If you're referring to the shortcuts that are down here at the bottom, these first few, so eBay and Camel, those are stationary in our platform. So there's no way to delete those, but you can delete the last 2, which are those custom research shortcuts if they're in your way. Good question. If it would be helpful to delete those for one reason or another, you can go ahead and let us know, again, at support@inventorylab.com, and we can create a suggestion for our developers to review and see if there's a way we might be able to get those toggled off in your account in the future. Wonderful. All right, we'll give it a couple more minutes if you have any other questions about your settings. Hopefully this means that it all made sense and that you've already got all of your settings all correctly set up just the way you like them. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining me. If you do find yourself with other questions, you know where to find us here at support. And we'll also be around all day today here at the Seller Summit. So if there's anything else that you need from us, please let us know. This is just a sneak peek of one of our customer coaching sessions that we offer. We currently have 5 different sessions on 5 different topics, and they're all hosted in a small webinar live format, just kind of like this in a way. And they happen bi-weekly. So if you want to check them out, if there's any other areas or topics that you'd like to discover, you can visit support.inventorylab.com and click on webinars and customer coaching, and you'll be able to sign up there. If there's an additional topic we don't offer that you'd like to see us offer, go ahead and let us know, and we'd be happy to consider that for the future.